hardest part of the whole operation. Keeping everybody together.
Yeah, it's much easier. Just need a can of tuna. Got some beer at my
Yeah. All right, Michelle, if we could do one more round of gathering folks back in. All right, we'll begin. We will resume with our program. So at this time, similar to yesterday's portion of the program where we had an opportunity to hear from some of the leadership in some of our state agencies, today we have with us leadership from 6 state agencies. And their biographies are within your packet, and you should review those. And I'll introduce all of the agency leadership, and then one by one, we'll have a chance to interact with them. So let me start with this. Of course, many of you know our longtime friend, Craig Thompson, who is now and I'm going to drop the designee portion because you're going to be secretaries and deputy secretaries. So let's just go with that. Craig Thompson, Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Mary Kolar, who is formerly on the WCA Board of Directors, the Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs. Mr. Brad Paff, Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. Julie Willems Van Dyck, the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Health Services. Sarah Meany, Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Tourism. And my long-time friend, Elizabeth Kleesner, Deputy Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. I would ask you all to join me with a warm welcome to agency leadership. And let's start with Craig Thompson.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. It was my pleasure to be here last night and be able to chat with many of you in the room, and it's always an honor to be able to address the Counties Association Legislative Exchange. As many of you know, I was with the association for 16 years, and I was 16 of the best years of my life. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We each have a very limited amount of time, so I want to cover a little bit of ground on that in that amount of time before I let others before I turn it over. I guess first I would like to say that we've already had, I think, some very productive meetings at the department since I've been there over the last 4.5 weeks with your representatives from the Wisconsin County Highway Association. I see Mark Servey is in the room here. I know it's been the desire on your end to be able to stretch the dollars that you are getting both from the state, from the property tax dollars that you raise, to stretch those to get the maximum amount for every single penny of every single dollar you can. And you know, that's our desire clearly as well. So we had our entire staff, we had an initial meeting with them. If we can look at some of the projects that you have, whether they are road projects or bridge projects, we're trying to come up with a list that the ones that are not as complex, the ones that are more straightforward, if we can work between us, your folks, Federal Highway Administration, to streamline and bring down the delivery costs on your end on each of those projects, that'll only mean that there'll be more dollars left to be able to do more projects. And so we got a long way to go. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's something that I know your association, the Highway Association, has been looking to do. But I'm optimistic. We've got folks at the table that when we really want to find the answer to be yes, we can find an answer to do that. So I'm very excited from that standpoint. We are going to be continuing to look at efficiencies every step of the way that we can to make sure that if there's an asset being built, whether it's large or it's small, that it's going to meet the needs for the life of that, whether it's for the next 50 years or whatever it might be, but also that we're not over-engineering or we're not overbuilding for what the needs are to meet the safety and economic needs of the area. I want to say that Governor Evers, when he was running, made transportation one of the 3 core issues that he ran on: education, healthcare, and transportation, and fixing our infrastructure. He consistently said when he did that everything was on the table and that we would get together and garner input from stakeholders from across the state. So we were charged with doing that. We brought together a group of 34 different individuals, 4 of them legislators, and then the other 30 members from representing everything from agriculture, tourism, trucking, timber, environmental interests, ports, airports, rail, transit, elderly and disabled, of course, counties, towns, villages, cities, bike and pedestrian. And so we had very divergent interests, and we had a very condensed time frame. So we gave them homework, and we asked them to read some of the reports that had already been done and some of the recommendations that we've looked at. And we've had several intensive days, the previous Thursday and the last Monday, where I think we saw from a lot of these different sectors of the economy and a lot of these different areas, and I want to thank Mark O'Connell for taking part in that, Dan Federle from the County Highways Association taking part of that, County Executive from Racine, Jonathan Delagrave, being part of that. And I think we found a lot of consensus both on some of the priorities where we should be looking right now, as well as on ways that we could raise the revenue to do that. I would say to you, we're still working internal on what recommendations may be and what the governor ultimately decides to propose, but I am confident that after this being debated for years and years and years and years, that with leadership, that we can increase resources to counties, cities, villages, and towns to help you get on the path to being able to meet more of your needs, that we can improve the condition on our state highway system, that we will fix it first before we look at adding new, that we can do that and meet that and actually improve the conditions that have been deteriorating and will deteriorate significantly without more resources, that we can add more access to transit for people in our different areas, that we can help the aging disability groups, which is continuing to grow, that we need resources for that, and that we can look at a 10-year schedule where we can get the amount of money that's coming in that goes to debt service to begin to go down and reduce over that 10-year period. I believe we can do all of those things and still be either one of or the cheapest state in the Midwest for what we pay in user fees to the government to operate our transportation system. I believe we can do all of those things. And so I'm very excited, honored that the governor has asked me to serve in this capacity. I've been so excited working with all of you in all the different areas of the state, from the task holder groups and others. I think there's a genuine thirst for leadership on this issue, to address an issue that's been debated for a long time. I've said it many times. We have the second most transportation-dependent economy in the country behind Indiana, and we need to have a transportation system that will be the canvas on which that economy can grow. So I'm tremendously excited to be able to do that, but I don't want to take more time up than I should, so I am now going to turn over to my colleague, Mary. Thank you.
Hello, it's such an honor for me to be back in this room. It feels different to be standing up here and speaking to you instead of sitting in those chairs. I will try to keep my remarks to the 7 minutes that we've been allotted. If you would like to learn more about me, you can see the front page of today's paper right here. So you can, that was easy. Anyway, but I have to emphasize very much in my remarks today our relationship with counties. I will be repeatedly talking about county veteran service offices. So again, as Mark mentioned, I have been on the Dane County Board for 6 years. I served for more than 3 years on the Wisconsin Counties Association Board of Directors. I have learned a lot from people like you, county representatives, and many others to ensure our voices are heard, especially across the street at the Capitol. Building on the knowledge and experience I've gained during my 28 years on active duty in the U.S. Navy, I'll be using this knowledge and experience to continue to work with you and others to ensure that Wisconsin continues to be a great place to be. Pending my appointment and a confirmation by the Senate, I will be the 11th WDVA Secretary and officially the Chief Advocate for the over 360,000 veterans who live in Wisconsin with their families. As WDVA Secretary, I realize that caring for our veterans and their families and making their voices heard is an incredible responsibility. But working together, just like we have at WCA, is how we're going to achieve our goals. Before and during my tenure on the Dane County Board of Supervisors, I worked extensively with the Dane County Veterans Service Office to ensure that veterans in our county received the benefits that they earned and need. Most recently, I sponsored a resolution communicating to our elected officials, up to the President, that Dane County wants continued support of veteran administration health care and that we are against its privatization. The resolution was passed by the Dane County Board of Supervisors and signed by County Executive Joe Parisi. It's likely you have had similar proposals and have worked with your constituents and CVSOs, but I also know there's more work to do. We serve not only because it's important to care for those who have dedicated and sacrificed so much for our country. We also do it because of the impact veterans have on our communities. They add value. By helping veterans and families receive the benefits they earned, we are also helping make them make contributions to their communities. Those contributions stretch to those who may not have any affiliation with the military. Every year, veterans across the state bring in a combined estimated average of $955 million in compensation to their communities, according to a study by the University of Wisconsin here at Madison. Not only that, but veteran entrepreneurs have had additional impact. With more than 65,000 veteran-owned businesses employing more than 110,000 Wisconsinites, veteran entrepreneurs alone have a $20 billion impact with annual sales. The financial impact that veterans and their families have in Wisconsin is substantial, and it continues to grow. As Secretary of WDVA, I look forward to continuing to work with you and your CVSOs. They are the ones who have first contact with our veterans and their families and learned firsthand what we can do to provide more help. I look forward to continuing our work together in serving our veterans and their families. Perhaps the next time we talk, I can spend more time informing you about the many Wisconsin veteran benefits, including our 3 senior health care facilities at Chippewa Falls, King, and Union Grove. Thank you very much. It was an honor to be here today.
Good morning. My name is Brad Paff, Secretary Designee for the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. My home is the rolling hills, coulees, and valleys of western Wisconsin, La Crosse County. I'm very proud of that part of the state. I'd be remiss if I did not recognize my friends who are here in this room. Colleen Bates from Eau Claire County, thank you for your friendship and your leadership throughout the years. Ray Ransom, Black River Falls, Jackson County, thank you for your leadership. Sharon Folsey, I don't know what to say. You and I have worked together a lot of years. Towns Association, counties, economic development, thank you for your continuous leadership. Bob Kinney, Grant County, thank you. Thank you for what you do. Janetta Kirkpatrick, Richland County, thank you for your dedication, your education leadership, your interest in local issues, and you always have been straightforward and honest with me. Thank you for that. Tom Nelson, Outagamie County, thank you for your friendship and your advice. And all my friends and former colleagues on the La Crosse County Board of Supervisors, thank you. Thanks for being here. DACCAP, Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, plays a role in the lives of every individual in this state. All 5.7 million people that live in this state and every individual that visits this state is impacted in one way, shape, or form by the activities at the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. From the food that is grown, the milk that is produced, the cheese plants that manufacture the cheese, to the food that you purchase at the deli, to the water park that you visit when you travel around the state to Wisconsin Dells or wherever you may be, the hotels and lodging and campgrounds, to the gas stations when you stop to fill up your vehicle on the way out of town. It's impacted by the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. We at DADCAP cannot do our work alone. We partner with you. I want to give you a few examples of the partnership that we have. Land and water conservation, clean sweep, animal health, food safety, county fairs. Just an example of the partnership that we have at DADCAP with the Wisconsin Counties Association. But how did a boy from northern La Crosse County get the opportunity to be asked by the governor to serve as the secretary to the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection? Well, I'll be blunt with you. I was raised by two good people. I come from a very loving community, a small town area in La Crosse County. I've had a lot of opportunities for growth. I had an excellent public education system at Melrose Maduro High School. I had strong mentors. And I believe I have a pretty good work ethic. I was raised on a family dairy farm in northern La Crosse County. My parents were dairy farmers, like their parents and their parents before them. In fact, in my family, they've been farming since they came to this country in the 1800s. My parents met when they were in high school. In fact, they met before that. They got married shortly after high school. They rented a farm, and then they purchased a farm right across the county road from my grandparents. My parents owned their milk cows. My grandparents owned some milk cows. But collectively, they shared the machinery. And we lived and we worked together. My story isn't much different than many of yours. The milk check paid our bills. It put food on our table. It put the clothes on our back. It put the braces on my teeth. It provided me the money to go to college. But most importantly, the milk check and the family farm shaped my values. It shaped my outlook on life. The farm taught me an awful lot. It taught me economics. It taught me biology. It taught me conservation. It taught me land stewardship. It taught me that you can't always win, that you're going to have some pretty tough days. But you know what? Tomorrow you still have to get up and you have to milk the cows. It taught me patience, and it gave me a perspective on life. While Mom and Dad, they didn't leave the farm. They gave us opportunities. They gave my siblings and I opportunities. They said there's new experiences. You need to learn and you need to grow. You can always come home. But you need to learn and you need to grow. But they implied one thing that was important, and I'll never forget what they implied, and that was, remember where you're from. Remember the people that helped bring you to where you're at. You see, I strongly believe that you do not know where you're going unless you know where you come from. And I know where I'm from. Wisconsin agriculture and our rural communities, we face challenges, but we also have tremendous opportunities. And in order to move forward, we need to build on the skills that we've learned from those that have come before. We need to remember where we're from. In Wisconsin, we seek four things. Wisconsin agriculture, we seek four things. Number one, we want new people to enter agriculture. Number two, we want to make sure that the product that we grow, that consumers understand that and they value it. We want to link farmers to consumers. We want to find new markets May those markets be local, may they be regional, maybe they be national or international. We want to find new markets. And obviously, we always need access to capital. Agriculture is very capital intensive. None of these 4 challenges are new. We've experienced them before. The exciting thing is that together, working together, counties, the state, working amongst ourselves, intergovernmental, as well as working with the private sector, we can meet these 4 challenges. New people want to farm. Every day, new people come forward and they want to enter agriculture. Now, they may not want to farm exactly like their parents or their grandparents, but they want to return to the farm. I want to make sure that we at DATCAP provide that opportunity. People want to know where their food comes from. People value food. They want to know the story behind the food that's on their plate. We in agriculture can't be afraid to share that story. We've got a tremendous story to tell. The American food system is one of the most safe, most efficient in the world. And people all over the world are interested in the products that we grow here in Wisconsin. I want to make sure that those consumers worldwide have the opportunity to experience something special from Wisconsin. But we can't do this alone as farmers. We need a community. We need a vibrant, growing rural community. A community that has internet and the 21st century broadband technology. We need a community that has access to health care, one that's not only affordable, but also we have a health care infrastructure. We need to make sure that the people in the Hillsborough area have access to health care. That's why we have a hospital in Hillsborough. Lancaster, Viroqua, Black River Falls. We can't forget our rural communities when it comes to health care, access, and affordability. We need and we want a high-quality public education system in rural areas as well as urban and suburban areas. And we need a transportation system that connects. If we're going to take the great products that we grow in this state, and we're going to get those to those local, regional, national, and international markets, we have to be able to get those products off our farms. We have to be able to get those products to our consumers worldwide. We are in this together, you and me. As my dad would often say, Brad, this stuff is not new. Things were tough in the past. Budgets were tight then, but people were able to come together. We need to remember that there's more that unites us as a people than what divides us. We also need to remember what I was taught a long time ago. You do not know where you're going unless you know where you come from. I know where I'm from. I know where I want to help take this state when it comes to agriculture. I ask for your assistance as we move forward. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Julie Williams Van Dyke, Deputy Secretary for the Department of Health Services. Julie?
Well, good morning. On behalf of Secretary-Designee Andrea Palm, I bring you her greetings and our great excitement at the opportunity that is before us. Like many of my colleagues on the panel, I also come to you on a pathway through local government. For the last 9 years, I have led a program at the University of Wisconsin called County Health Rankings. Some of you may be familiar with it as you've received those rankings every year, as we have strived to give you good data, good evidence, and guidance on how to help improve your counties and counties across the nation. I'm so happy to come back to focus on Wisconsin and to harness my past roots as a local government employee of Marathon County. For 21 years, I was a public health nurse, the director of public health nursing, and finally, for the last 7.5 years, I was the health officer of Marathon County. And it was a fabulous place to live, learn, work, and play. and I will bring the lessons of that experience with me to this position. What I've learned, both from Marathon County and working with counties across the nation, is that local government is the laboratory of innovation. You all face real-life real-life problems in real time, and you need real-time solutions. You can't wait if there's a disease outbreak in your community, if there is a child or a vulnerable adult who's in danger. You need action right away to address critical issues like that. And what I learned working with the state when I was a local employee is here is what helped me. It helped me when we had clear policy. It helped me when we had relevant technical assistance. And it helped us when we had resources that met the critical needs of our citizens. And as now a leader in state government, working with Secretary Palm and the whole team at the Department of Health Services, that's what we're committed to bringing to you. As Governor Evers stated yesterday, we are here to work in partnership with you, and we know there are many challenges facing our state. This morning, being a woman who's lived and died by rankings, I thought perhaps I should look up the state's health rankings, and found what I knew to be true. We have been dropping in our rankings as a state of Wisconsin. 30 years ago, we ranked 7th in the nation, in the top 10. And now, in the rankings that were just published in December, we've dropped to 23rd. We can do better than that by facing challenges that are before us. Too many people in our state can't afford health care coverage, and they can't access health care easily. We're going to work on that. Too many babies are dying before their first year, particularly in our communities of color. We're going to work on that. Too many people are facing despair and turning to addiction, to opioids and alcohol, and dying far too young from overdoses. And we're going to work on that. And our population is aging, and we owe it to our older adults that as they age, we treat them with dignity in their later years. And we're going to work on that. So, a healthy population is one of the most important cornerstones to having a state with a great economy and productive citizens. And so we are here to work with you, with your county health departments, with your county social service departments, and with stakeholders across this great state to once again make Wisconsin the healthiest state in the nation. Thank you. And I'll now turn it over to Secretary-Designee Sarah Meany from the Department of Tourism.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It is not lost on me that I get to have the job that everyone says is the most fun in state government. It's sort of by design that I agreed to do that. But I guess I want to start out by asking everyone a question first. Aside from traveling here to this conference today, when's the last time you were a tourist inside your own state? By way of hands, have you done that within the last year? Okay, keep your hands up. Last 6 months. Okay, last 5 months. Last 2 months. Last month. Be more like those people, you guys. So what we have here is a group of very dedicated people who love their state. You, like I, are very proud of where we're from. We know what we have here, and we know that it's special. And while I am a stranger to state government in that I've never worked in state government before, I am no stranger to tourism, both as a tourist myself within my own city and my state and the entire globe, frankly. I know what it's like to feel inspired to go somewhere and to save up, work really hard, count down the days to leave and go on that trip. and then have all of your hopes realized when you go somewhere that actually exceeds those expectations. You and I know that Wisconsin can do that for everyone. But not everybody knows that Wisconsin is better than its neighbors at doing that. So that's the challenge that I took on when I accepted the appointment as Secretary of Tourism for the state of Wisconsin. I grew up in Milwaukee. I grew up facing backwards in a station wagon because I was third out of four. I didn't get to choose what seat I had in that station wagon as we traveled around the state. We didn't have a lot of money. We drove anywhere if we were going to go anywhere, largely stayed with friends or family if we were going anywhere, and stayed in a lot of what my mother would call rustic accommodations. That is to say, a camp tent was too rustic for her taste, and anything with actual sheets provided might be a little too fancy for us. So we'd pack everything up, put our cargo lid on top of that big station wagon with the wood paneling, and we'd head off. Lots of mosquito bites and scrapes and memories later. That's what makes up the stories of my childhood and my knowledge of Wisconsin. So I'm no stranger to tourism personally, but I'm also not a stranger to tourism professionally. Most recently, before taking on this fun challenge, I worked for Milwaukee Film Festival. That organization is a nonprofit culture and arts organization. They put on the 9th largest film festival in the country. Who knew? Before that, I was managing partner and a partner of 2 different advertising agencies in the Milwaukee area with national and international clients in tourism and destination marketing and active lifestyle brands. So I've spent most of my career on the other side of this exact same job, needing to figure out how to be creative and strategic, telling the story to inspire people to do what we hoped they would do, which is visit our client's destination or use our client's products. A lot of times that meant getting very creative with tight budgets. So I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but the Wisconsin state tourism budget hasn't changed in a very long time. And when I mean it hasn't changed, I mean it hasn't changed. The number has stayed the same. It costs more money each year to buy television advertising. It costs more money each year to employ people to make those advertisements and those promotions. So what we have on our hands is a challenge. There's nothing I like more than a good challenge. This challenge, however, is an interesting one. $15.5 million for the state of Wisconsin. Does anyone want to guess what our neighbors to the east and west have to spend every year? 35 in Michigan and 30 in Minnesota. That's what I said when I first saw that. So I'm a person who asks a lot of questions. I've heard a wonderful story of Wisconsin tourism for a very long time, and that is tourism keeps growing. And that's true. Tourism keeps growing. The problem here is it's growing everywhere, and it's not growing as quickly here. So we're about 10% behind the national state average tourism growth per year, and we're about 40% behind our region. It's not all according to dollars. It has to do with who's competing for the people who want what we have to offer. So we're going to need to be smarter. We're going to need to be more strategic. And we're going to need to rely on data, not just gut and not just art, to make those decisions. The good news is tourism is the 3rd largest economy in the state of Wisconsin. We can't pretend that it's going to stay that way. What happens when you stop advertising and you sell pens for a living? People buy everyone else's pens. And that's what's happening right now when it comes to the things where we lead compared to our competition. Michigan and Minnesota are coming after our outdoor recreation. We're in their crosshairs. All you have to do is read their strategic plans, and it's clear. They want the people who want what we have to offer. We're going to have to be smarter. So what I can promise to you as I work in this role is that I'm going to bring my experience and my knowledge and my passion to the Department of Tourism, and I'm going to rely very heavily on research and data, even if that research is Michigan's because they have more money. It's handy that it's public access documentation. We just have to be creative, right? So that's what I plan to do. I plan to lead with transparency. I plan to lead with empathy. Nobody likes a sourpuss tourism secretary. And frankly, I want to encourage everyone to tell everyone you know not to overlook next time they're planning a tourism vacation, a travel opportunity with their family or their friends, that Wisconsin is really actually better than their neighbors. This is the place to be. All of us can contribute to that growth because all of us benefit from it. I also get the benefit of being a unifier in state government. This isn't a political role at all. We all get to win because we all get to have fun when people spend more money in Wisconsin. So thank you very much for your time today. Please help us in making those tax dollars from tourism continue to go up. And I believe that we can do it together. Thank you. And I am pleased to welcome to the podium Elizabeth Klaisner, Deputy Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction, Sarah, and thank you for inviting the DNR to be a part of your legislative exchange today. It is always a great meeting when you walk into the building and are greeted by hugs. And I was so pleased to see my good friend Mark O'Connell and John Hockemer and Scott McDonald. It's wonderful to reconnect with all of my great friends here at the counties. On behalf of DNR Secretary Designee Preston Cole, I want to express our desire to continue to work with you as partners. And that's really going to be the theme of what I talk about with you today. But before I get into that, I want to give you a little background on me. I have worked for the DNR since graduate school, but I also took about a 5-year break in that career and spent some time working for the Dane County Executive, where I was the lead for transportation, agriculture, land use, and parks, which was one of the greatest jobs I've ever had because the work was so closely aligned to what I would do in the office would show up on the landscape. And it was one of the best experiences that I've ever had. And I think that that's an experience that all of us who have worked in local government can say that that is really the unit of government that delivers service most directly to citizens. And so I really keep that in mind as I work with you at the Department of Natural Resources. A little just personal background on myself. I'm an only child of a school principal and a homemaker. I grew up in Madison on the east side of town here, and my summers were spent in northern Wisconsin, in the Intermountain West. And I had parents who really believed in getting their kid outdoors. And I did Outward Bound and all kinds of really fun things growing up that led me to want to pursue a degree in environmental studies and policy. And that background is something that I keep in mind a lot as I work at the Department of Natural Resources, especially when we think about connecting kids to the outdoors. And I do understand how important natural resources issues are to counties and what strong partners you are with us on a number of fronts. The list is long in terms of the programmatic areas that we work on together. We protect waterways together. We work on drinking water protection together. We work on our county forests together. And it was great to see Jane Sievert here today, as she is a great partner with us in our forestry programs. We do much joint management of state trails and parks together. We deliver services for land acquisition projects for local parks and recreation through our stewardship program and the grants that we provide in that program. We work on economic development together. We talk about projects, we review permits. We are at the table with you when there are big economic development projects in your counties. And we work on land and water conservation together. So we have many places where we will interface, and we hope that you will continue to be a great partner with us and that you will feel like you can come into the department and be a have an open door to dialogue with us on the many issues that we work on together. Toward that end, I wanted to share with you that we have, as of yesterday, hired our leadership team at the agency. All of our division administrators are in place, and they will start officially February 18th. We do have our new legislative liaison on board. He's a fellow by the name of Ben Van Pelt, who is wonderful and will be, I think, a great point of contact for the association. And of course, Preston and I, because of our background, both of us working in local government, are a contact for you at any time at the department. Preston likes to say he has a servant's heart in approaching the job as DNR secretary. And we hope to bring that sentiment to all of you as we continue to work together as partners. And thank you again for inviting us and having us here today.
Ladies and gentlemen, some of Governor Tony Evers' agency leadership. Thank you all for attending. We're so happy you are leading the agencies. Thank you. Join me in thanking our guests. All right, next up, there is a litigation in this country which is perhaps the largest litigation effort we've ever had within the borders of the United States.